We are live. I was just telling Luna that I had just
Hi.
clicked the button. So, hello. If anybody's here, people trickle in, hopefully, because I
Yeah.
forgot to share my link. I didn't drop it anywhere.
Oh, didn't you? I'll do it. That's pretty easy.
No, I was telling you about my day, and in the course of everything, it just kind of like that was the furthest thing from my mind.
We've got it. It's all cool. Um, Hi everyone. How are you? I hope you're having a good day.
I see cannabis resolution is in the chat room.
Hey, cannabis resolution. I'm just
Yeah, so I don't.
thinking.
I the thoughts for the topic tonight: fairy
Yes.
tales, spells, wands.
Ooh.
It kind of happened um, probably a couple of weeks ago. I remember you had mentioned something. You were telling me about Beauty and the Beast and how it's not what it's cracked up to be. And I kind of like, well, that's interesting because I had heard that there were other fairy tales that were over the course of time they have gotten dramatically different. I mean, case in point, all of the Disney ones that have wands added in, a lot of them, and most of those princesses with wands. I can only think of maybe one other princess or good witch that apart from Disney had a wand, and that was the Glinda, the good witch from the Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
All those Disney princesses had the fairy godmother. I mean, they Disney really did have a knack for wands, and it's not just Disney with wands. I mean, you have Harry Potter; those wands are actual real thing. There's a shop in Universal Studios that you can go and you can get a wand custom made. I mean, and you can get different kinds of wood and you can customize it. And we know all those woods have magical properties in them.
You too.
Certain people are more have more luck with certain kinds of woods that those wands are fashioned out of, even to the point where wands are so symbolic now that there literally is a wand. It's a remote control where you can change your channels with
You
waving
saying
your
that?
wand.
That's so funny. Hey, you point the one. Get out of my way. I'm trying to turn the channel.
I mean, yeah, and I didn't look into a lot of stuff, but I found it wasn't just Beauty and the Beast that had that the origins were different. There was Cinderella where the evil stepsisters cut their feet off to fit into the shoe.
They actually cut their feet.
Yeah, I can go into that.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, and but looking back, the origins of fairy tales, folk tales, and fables, they're all kind of similar, but they're all different. But the origins go back thousands of years. I mean, there's a I don't know if you would call it a fairy tale or a folk tale of the Smith and the Devil. That goes back about 7 millennia, and that's the whole concept of selling your soul to the devil.
Wow.
It's in that little that writing.
Wow. Well, I got a little wand, but unlike everybody else, I pulled up some pretty ones and I'm looking at them. Some of them are quite beautiful. And then I looked at mine, and it's mine.
Nice.
Probably works better than them fancy ones. I don't know. I haven't tried it out yet.
I have
You
a
got a good
nice metallic
one, yeah.
metallic wand that has a lid off of it. And I
Oh, and
only
it
say that
smells.
because wands don't always have to be wooden and shaped. When you write something, you're right. You're spelling. You're casting a spell. So I mean, a pen is a wand.
Modern day wand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my pen, not as fancy as yours do. Someone gave me a fancy pen, but it weighs a ton, and it's like, I'm not going to carry that around. Yeah, so you're right though. This is the modern day wand, and this is used for spelling.
Yeah. So I mean, and then over the course of the week, the more I thought about this, the more it's like, okay, these are could be. I mean, questions kept coming, and it's like it could go either way. It could be really good, or it could go south, because it's such. It seems like a simple topic, but when you look into it, it's vast differences.
Yeah, because on the spiritual side, one's made out of wood. Now, I know everyone knows the tree people. So the particular tree, one, the kind of wood it is has an effect, and two, the spirit in the tree has an effect. And I hope there's people that are making wands are asking if they can make them from the wood, from the tree, spirit and person, because that's the proper way of doing it. And it has an effect. So if you got a gnarly tree, you make a wand out of a gnarly tree, you're going to have gnarly energy. You know what I mean? If it's a beautiful tree.
Yeah, you're making me think for some reason, because I guess we were talking about Disney and wands a few seconds ago. In Pocahontas, the tree, the weeping willow,
yes,
the grandma tree.
That's right. That's how it is. It's like that. Maybe not as visually vivid, but it's like that.
So, in looking into this, there is, see, I got some of the topics, some of the links I've got pulled up. Mm-hmm. This one is the 10 darkest and most disturbing fairy tales.
Ooh, no kids around, I hope.
Just some basic like questions. Yeah, that I just found in like a search.
Have you seen the beautiful?
And there are Eastern ones too. I can't remember the name of it, but I remember reading about the Japanese 7 brothers. And one of them's, I can't remember the entire story, but one of them it was like I dare you, and they were trying to constantly outdo each other until one of them actually swallowed up the entire ocean.
Oh, that happens. That's why you don't play around with magical things like that. Things can happen, like making wishes. Do you want to have a look at some ones, and then we'll?
And I found an article that's called "The Magic of Wands and Fairy Tales, Tarot, and Your Spirituality."
Ooh.
And I found 16 classic fairy tales that have disturbing origins than told.
Okay. Yeah, I often wonder, and some of them are grim.
And then I found the world's oldest fairy tale, The Smith and the Devil.
I saw the movie about that. They made a little movie about it. That is a brilliant story, that one. You've got to hear that one. Is it? As long as it's not too long.
It's not too long.
Yeah, or go and watch the movie. That was excellent. I'm not going to give it away.
Yeah. So I mean, did you want to show wands?
Yeah. We'll I just got Google stuff up of basic stuff. Let's have a look. Share screen. We'll just have a look at some of the beautiful things you can get, whether they're real or not, and they actually work. Is another matter. So let's have a look here.
And did you notice you didn't have to ask me permission to share the screen?
Yeah, I do.
Oh.
That's what I tried to get.
My bad. I was hoping that trick would have
Yeah,
worked,
I was
but
hoping it worked too. It said,
you know I'm not a professional.
no, that's all right. It said that the invitation I had was already taken. All right, look at this. Let's have a look at. I want to look at this one here. Can you see that? I've got to fix my screen up to them too. Oh, is that better? Can you see everything now? Look at these ones here.
Yeah.
See when nah, that's no good. Go back. Sorry. All right, let's have a look at these. So look at them. How pretty. How pretty. I think they dye them and stuff. But truly, honestly, if you were making real ones of these, each individual, the craft person that did this would have to install each single one with power. That's a lot of energy. So imagine these are mostly decorative. I can't imagine someone making that many wands and putting that much energy into it. It'd be a 24-hour job and you'd get tired.
Yeah.
Oh, look at them. Oh, check these
I
ones
mean,
out.
even worse, what if the thing or artificial intelligence making that wand? Because where robots are everywhere. What if it's an industrial, a commercialized product, a lot of demand? You would have production, and would it be possible for artificial intelligence or a robot to completely package, rubbed sand, polish, rub down, perfect it, and no human ever actually touch it?
I don't know. You're scaring me, Jules.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to scare you.
No, it's all right. I'm just thinking about that. Oh, see, these are not now. These are better. Look how plain and nice they are. They're probably actually instilled really well with energy. These ones.
Yeah, I like the one on the bottom.
Yeah, they're beautiful, aren't they?
So if you had to, well, you have a wand. Do you know what kind of wood it's made from?
Gum tree. I found on the
Nice.
ground. I just picked it up and went, oh, that looks like a one. Oh, I'll show you something. Check this one out. Hang on, I'll just shrink the screen so I can see. This is weird. After the flood, I went for a walk down the river, and the river had subsided and left stuff on the riverbank. And it left
I have an inside chuckle. I have a confession. Every time I hear you say after the flood, I have the inside chuckle because we often talk about the flood. It's like
that was a
after
long
the
time ago.
flood.
That's how old I am. I was around when the flood was around. Anyway, and it's quite a nice piece of wood, as you can see, right? And it's kind of flat, goes flat in the middle there. Anyways, I looked at it.
Nice.
Oh, that's nice. You could hang stuff off it like this. So I'm walking back up the street with it in my hand, but I'm holding it like this, and it looks like a Grim Reaper's.
It really does.
I'm walking up the street. With
Oh my
this
god. Every now and then I get emails and it recommends products. And I had a product recommended today. It was aquarium decor, and it was the Grim Reaper little
oh yeah,
like statue for an aquarium. And I could totally see that as a nice piece of driftwood with the Grim Reaper in the fish tank.
it would, eh? I could post it over if they let me. So I'll put something like that. These are my ones, and this is I call it my sorry stick because I hit people on the head and then go sorry. No, no, it's a old morning stick.
Well, I thought it was because you hit people on the head, and it's like, I'm sorry.
Sorry, sorry stick. Yeah, but this one I found, and yeah, I thought, wow, that looks like a wand. I don't use them. I don't need a wand if I want to do something. Put it that way. But it was nice, and I can pretty it up like that one. Where was it? Those ones we were looking at. I shrunk my screen. I can pretty it up. These ones. But I don't know, like honestly, the kind of magic our people uses and the magic that other people use are a little different. And you're not supposed to do intentional magic, right? Because it'll come, whatever you put out comes back on you. And people that say they're not doing magic, their thoughts and that, they can use this wand, and do magic with this wand and do real damage. So, but it'll come back on
And the mirror,
that one too.
mirror on the wall, the mirror.
Yes, the scrying screen. Yeah, the portal screen. And honestly, I'm really glad you brought this up, Jules. I normally don't talk about this stuff, and I wouldn't show you wands like that. To me, is just a stick that looks nice. Anyway, because it is rampant across the world, a lot of people are doing magic and stuff like that, bad magic stuff, and they think they're doing good magic, but they're doing it for their own gains, and that makes it magic, because that's selfish. You shouldn't be doing that. It's given to you to help the world, to help people, to assist in the healing of the world. That's why you have it, not to get more money or to get that job or to get that boyfriend or to get that position, whatever else, that holiday, to get people back and all that. That will all come back on you. And you know how they reckon in old fairy tales that the old witch and that is an old hag? And that's truth in there, because when you use magic for the wrong thing, it'll suck the life force out of you and you will end up looking like an old hag.
Oh.
And this is true. I'm fair income about this stuff. It's not pretend like Harry Potter. This is fair income, real stuff. I'm raving, Jules.
No. So basically, the difference between a fairy tale and a fable and folklore is a fable is it's typically a story where it's animals or objects and they talk, and typically the writer tries to convey a moral. Like a good one, fable for like Aesop's fables.
Yes.
The tortoise and the hare.
Yes.
A modern one would be Animal Farm. Then looking at fairy tales versus folklore, folklore were those stories that were oral tradition from centuries ago.
Yeah, I know. They got
and then fairy tales came about more so around they got their popularity around the time the Brothers Grimm. And what they did, they were German brothers who wanted to preserve the stories, and they wrote them down. So that's why they're credited, because they kind of started the trend. And then there were a couple of other ones, but the difference between between the two is the folk tales were an oral tradition with no anybody accredited writing it, and characters are generally animals acting with humans and just normal day-to-day conversation. Folk tales are rooted in human scenarios instead of magic to relay a moral. And folk tales were originally written to have a wider appeal. But fairy tales are written folk tales, just credited to a writer. Characters in fairy tales include mythical and magical otherworldly creatures. Fairy tales are rooted in magic. They are rooted in magic with mythical scenarios. And fairy tales were originally written for aristocratic audiences.
Wow, I never would have known there was a difference. I always kind of thought they were the same thing, but they just said a different way.
Yeah, I didn't, and for a fairy, there's 6 components of a fairy tale. Who would have thought? You open with once upon a time. I mean, so many fairy tales open like that. Even Shrek, which is supposed to be like a spin-off of all these fairy tales, even Shrek opened up with once upon a time.
All I can hear is a
I mean,
long time.
another component would be to create a world with rules. So you set like certain things you can do and can't do, and then you have the heroine, the villain, the moral, and typically a happy ending. But there are old fairy tales that didn't necessarily have a happy ending.
Weren't some of them derived from not nice stories, and they just made them sound a little bit better? Like,
So, what is the oldest fairy tale, and when was it written?
I don't know.
To be about 4,000 years old, a book called The Smith and the Devil was estimated to date back 6,000 years to the Bronze Age.
Wow. 6,000 years. I'm sure there's an earlier one.
Yeah, and when did fairy tales change? I mean, this answer to this question on this question search I found, this could have been stepping stone fairy tales needed to launch the supposed traditional tales to modern ones. The internet age brought people closer together than ever before, and by the 21st century, a plethora of fairy tales retellings began sprouting up. So it's like with every technological boom, they get populated, they get edited, they get revived. And these stories like Cinderella that are thousands of years old still have pop culture references today. They're still popular.
You know, they didn't tell you about Cinderella?
Yeah, it's the Brothers Grimm is and this is kind of some of the conversation we were having last night on how it's dragons. They're always in pop culture. No matter when you look back, you can always find the symbolisms of dragons. And with dragons, they're credited being magical creatures. So you're likely to find magical elements, magical wands, spells, things like that.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get a bucket and go out and find and collect some fairy tales. I didn't know fairies had tails, but I'm going to go and get some.
They probably have little green butts like the fireflies do.
Actually, actual fairies, I know people that have seen them. They reckon they're about this big, and they've been in the bush, and they got like their wings are like leaves and stuff, and they fly really fast, and they kind of look like a moth when they fly fast until they hover, and then you realise the body's different. And I've talked to people that have actually seen them in the bush or right out where in like country town, like where Donnie lives, you know, in places like that, quiet places.
Yeah.
Like living at the bottom of the mountains and stuff like that. They reckon they can be quite mischievous.
Are you ready? I'm kind of. Do you want to hear about 16 classic fairy tales that have disturbing origins?
Yeah, if we maybe depends how long they are, but yeah, go for it. I'm ready to be disturbed.
Well, we can look through it, and I can like skim and just get to the meat and potatoes rather than the salad and the soup.
Okay then, yeah, because we'll get full quick. I'll go for it. Go for it.
All right. So this particular article I found from the history collection. Yeah, from the history collection. 16 classic fairy tales that have disturbing origins than told. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And they're fairly short, Luna. Do you want me to just read it real quick, or because this is probably one of the most popular fairy tales ever.
Yeah, right.
The Disney ones, especially Snow White. because it started the whole, like, this was the very first ever Walt Disney movie ever made, and it was groundbreaking at the time
Yeah, where
because
does,
it
I want to know
integrated
what,
sound with cinema.
I want to know
And
what the,
why would he pick Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs?
yeah,
All right, so
okay.
I'll make it quick. Walt Disney chose the fairy tale of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs for his first animated feature film, and the movie-going audiences loved it. Indeed, it is widely heralded as a masterpiece and made Disney a household name and a fortune. But it probably wouldn't have been so popular had Uncle Walt kept in some of the more disturbing elements of the story. Disney's version was somewhat true to the Brothers Grimm story. For instance, in both Snow White's wicked stepmother, the evil queen becomes jealous of her beauty and wants her dead. In the film, she gives Snow White a poisoned apple, but the original, she asked a hunter to take her into the forest and kill her so that she can be the fairest of them all. What's more, she asked the hunter bring back Snow White's lungs and her liver so that she knows that dastardly deed has been done. Of course, the hunter can't bring to butcher the young beauty, so he kills a wild boar instead and takes his organs back to the queen. In a sick twist, the mad monarch eats them. The cartoon ending is also a little bit more suitable for children. When Snow White and her handsome prince wed, the groom commands that the evil queen will be condemned to dance until her death. But what Disney didn't include from the original was a bit where the prince puts his bride's nemesis in hot burning iron shoes, and that is these that make her dance wildly until she drops dead. Pretty sinister. What do you think?
Sorry, here I am talking. Fell for the muted trick. Yeah, when I heard the heart part, what does that remind you of? People that eat hearts to keep young and stuff like that. That's real sinister, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So if I read more of these, are we gonna find their footprints in all of these works?
Dave, I want to get into it. I want to see what they're hiding from us. Go, Jules.
Well, we know. I mean, I'm sure Hansel and Gretel is another pretty popular one about the children. From I know it as the children who are find themselves at the witch's house with the oven, and they trick her into putting them in the oven, her in the oven.
Yep, that's the classic story that we all know. Yes.
All right. So the story of Hansel and Gretel, the two children who got lost in the woods, is widely known and widely loved by children. As with many fairy tales, it was made famous by the Brothers Grimm when they included it in their 1812 collection of short stories for youngsters. But it's likely the German authors took their inspiration from another, much darker story that had been used to warn kids of the dangers of going alone into the forest for centuries before. In the much loved tale, as told by the Brothers Grimm and countless parents since then, Hansel and Gretel are the children of an impoverished woodcutter and his cruel wife. Their mother decides to cast them out, leaving the young brother and sister to wander in the forest. Then, one day, they come across a cottage and decide to seek help. But far from being the home of a kindly soul, the gingerbread house belongs to an. Not the gumdrop buttons. Sorry, I had to. The gingerbread house belongs to an evil witch who enjoys nothing more than killing and eating children. In the later versions, Hansel and Gretel get wise to the witch's plan and after some time as captives manage to escape. But other versions aren't so cheerful. Indeed, in the French version, many believe the modern tale is based on, the pair actually end up stumbling across the devil himself. And he is far smarter than the witch. He captures the children as they try to escape and then builds a sawhorse to execute them on. In a sick twist, the brother and sister pretend not to know how they can get on the sawhorse, so the devil's wife offers to demonstrate. When she's on there, the youngsters use the saw and slash her throat and then escape to their freedom.
Okay, well, that's not the story I know. And
No. I mean, these stories are like, what?
yeah, I was having a hard time hearing that. Like, what?
I mean, there's Rapunzel and Little Jack Horner, which that's kind of more. I wouldn't necessarily call that like a fairy tale, but it's based on an actual person named Jack Horner of all things.
Wow.
Oh, let me see. And then Rumpelstiltskin, Little Red Riding Hood. Oh, we know this one. All right. So, according to historians, the origins of Little Red Riding Hood can be traced back as far as 10th century. As with many European folk tales, there were a number of different versions told in different countries. While the plot details might have varied, the overall theme was the same. A young girl, named for her magical red hooded cloak, is stalked by a wolf as she goes to visit her grandmother. The cunning wolf recommends that she pick some flowers for her grandmother. Then, when the girl is distracted, he runs ahead to grandmother's cottage to lie in wait for his young prey. In most versions of the tale, the wolf eats the grandmother whole, then dresses in her bonnet and waits her in bed. Little Red Riding Hood is tricked into believing the wolf is her elderly relative and joins him in bed, where she is also eaten. Most famously, the widely read version written by Charles Perrault and published in 1697, there is no happy ending. Nobody comes to rescue her and cut her from the wolf's stomach. More disturbingly, in Perrault's version, the girl strips naked before getting into bed, a clear indication that the fairy tale was originally a morality tale warning girl of wily seducers. When the brothers Grimm penned their version more than a century later, such sexual overtones were removed, and versions where the wolf serves Little Red Riding Hood pieces of her own grandmother to eat were ignored completely. Instead, they gave the happy tale ending with a brave and handsome huntsman saving the day by killing the wolf and cutting both the grandmother and her granddaughter free from his stomach.
I can see why they had to change it for children. Oh, well, they served her up, they ate her. Oh, that sounds a bit like cannibals now. We've got that same theme going, eating things to keep young and cannibal. Oh, my goodness. Keep going to friggin' hell. I can't believe it.
All right, so Rumpelstiltskin. Variants of this fairy tale have been told for more than 1,000 years, but these days it's the Brothers Grimm's version of Rumpelstiltskin, which is read to children the world over. And this one has a far more cheerful ending than many of the versions that went before it. The story involves an ambitious miller who boasts to the king that his daughter can weave straw into gold. The greedy king believes him and locks the young girl up in the tower overnight. She is told that if she does not produce gold by the next morning, she will lose her head. An imp appears and offers help. In return for her necklace, he will make the gold. Of course, the king just gets greedier, promising to marry the girl if she fulfills his wishes. The imp also demands more and more. First the girl's ring, but finally her firstborn child. Sure enough, the miller's daughter becomes queen, and then when her first child is born, the imp demands to take it away. The new mother refuses. After such arguments, the imp gives her one last deal. Only if she can guess his name will she be able to keep the baby. In the Brothers Grimm version of 1812, the queen hears the imp singing while she is out walking in the woods. This way, she learns his name is Rumpelstiltskin. When he returns the next day, then she passes the test. Though angry, the imp just runs away, never to be seen again. But in other versions, he doesn't take losing so well. Most infamously, one version, which the Brothers Grimm copied later, have that Rumpelstiltskin is so angry he stamps one foot right through the castle floor, then he grabs his other leg and literally rips himself in half, all in front of the onlooking queen and her infant.
They missed that bit out. He rips himself in half. That'd be fun. Far out. I'm flabbergasted, Jules. Like, I'm thinking of
and this one isn't really.
And now I hear the truth. I'm like, I wish I hadn't told him the story. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Penny Penny, the sky is falling. The sky is falling.
Yeah, actually, there's truth to that because of the dome. It was probably
yeah.
This
one,
the updated version of that.
I mean, there's so many of them out there. And this one, the Goose Girl, I never have actually heard of this. So I'm going to read it real quick. A German fairy tale, The Goose Girl, was popularized by the Brothers Grimm when they included it in their 1815 anthology of children's stories. It's a tale of a princess, treachery, deceit, and ultimately of justice. Unsurprisingly, it has been translated many times into a number of different languages. In most cases, however, modern versions have left out some of the gorier details of earlier times. The modern version is a colorful fable about the immorality of lying. It sticks closely to the original, with the princess sent off by her parents to meet her husband-to-be. She is accompanied on a long journey by her magic talking horse and a single servant girl. But long the servant refuses to obey orders, and so the princess is forced to fetch her own water from a river. At the river, she uses a special charm necklace her mother gave her. The servant threatens to tell the queen unless the princess agrees to swap clothes. Once in the royal girl's clothes, the commoner starts to pose as the princess, and it works. She lives a royal life, while the real princess is cast out as a lowly goose girl. Eventually, the king, to whom the princess was to be married, learns of the deception. In the modern version, he casts out the fraudster and weds her mistress. But in earlier versions, the ending is far bloodier. Here, the king asks the fraudster to name an appropriate punishment for a servant who pretends to be royal. Not knowing she's been rumbled, she says they should be put naked in a barrel fitted with spikes, and in the inside, then rolled through the town. And so the punishment she herself receives, dying in agony while the real princess watches on with satisfaction. Hey, Naysay, I added you in.
All I can say to that story is WTF.
I know, and I never heard of that one.
That's cruel, man. That's like the Iron Maiden. Been putting a thing with spikes. They were cruel back then. This is what makes me think only evil people do things that cruel.
Well, as kingdom of my domicile, I remind my daughters how much they are my princesses. But of course, I am the king. And I will lock them up in the tower. There's a princess in a tower. Oh my gosh, that's a lot like me. Poor Rapunzel needs a haircut. How I wonder how she pees.
Hopefully sitting down.
Real princesses pee standing.
Real princess don't poop. That's funny. Good day, no.
And so I was just going over an article I found that had disturbing origins of fairy tales.
Okay, what else have we got, Jules?
Well, yeah. I got another little one pulled up. Let me share my screen. And this one, the 10 darkest and most disturbing fairy tales. Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, can I say something before you move on about Beauty and the Beast? Remember we were talking the other day, and the actual Beauty and the Beast, it was a human woman in love with a hairy man.
Yeah, and that is what got me thinking that, maybe there's more to fairy tales than I see. And I came across some stuff that I didn't know. It's been interesting. But yeah, one of the 10 darkest and most disturbing fairy tales. Beauty and the Beast, considered to be the ultimate tale of how love conquers all. This traditional fairy tale, written by Jean-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont, is an enduring classic that has spawned operas, films, and ballads. The original, however, was neither sanguine nor as comic as later versions. In the original, Belle is the daughter of a bankrupt merchant as opposed to an eccentric inventor. The silverware in the Beast's impressive castle neither sings nor dances, and most importantly, it's machinations of Belle's 2 wicked sisters that result in the Beast's demise, not the actual comically villainous Gaston, who is merely a Disney embellishment. Furthermore, reading through de Beaumont's narrative does not end happily. When Belle's love breaking the curse placed on the Beast, many versions deny this happy ending for the ill-fated couple, instead choosing to close the story with Belle grieving over the Beast's prone form. And this one was interesting to me. Cinderella. This archetypal story of unjust oppression has been reinterpreted in various films and literature, and has even been used in psychological terminology. Though the ending remains the same in the less sanitized versions of the lore, the existence of the glass slippers has remained an unexplained error in oral transmission. In the earlier versions, the slippers were made of squirrel fur, and when the prince was seeking his elusive love, he was, according to the brothers Grimm, almost tricked by the 2 stepsisters, both of whom cut off parts of their foot in order to fit into the slipper. It was only through the heavenly doves that the prince realized that the sisters were bleeding from their self-inflicted amputations. Furthermore, in a spirit of quasi-macabre comedy, some versions end with the stepsisters' eyes being pecked out by the same doves, thus allowing evil to be justly punished.
Brutal. It's brutal, man. I'll just cut off me butt because the dress don't fit me. Hang on. Man, they were brutal.
Yeah. The Frog King, recently adapted into 2009's The Frog Princess. The original Grimm fairy tale is unfortunately far less sentimental and romantic than its modern adaptations. Where modern versions claim the spell is broken by the kiss of the princess, the reality is that the prince's transformation was occasioned by the spoiled and petulant princess flinging the unassuming frog against the wall in anger or disgust. Other versions of the story even claim that instead of a kiss or a throw, the frog spent one night sleeping peacefully on the pillow of the princess, with her very reluctant agreement, and this apparently was sufficient to break the spell of his frog-like form. And Hansel and Gretel, a terrifying story of cannibalism and child abuse. which thankfully ends happy for the protagonist. And this tale of the Brothers Grimm also has all the elements of exciting adventure for children, including gingerbread houses. Not the gumdrop button. Talking geese and hidden treasure, as well as being a tale of a man forced to abandon his children at the command of his manipulative wife. The details of Hansel and Gretel's captivity at the hands of the witch, Hansel using the bone of a previous victim to trick his captor, for example, and Gretel eventually shoving the witch into the oven, are alarming as they are compelling. Some of these events are still present in the sanitized versions, but many omit the more grisly details involved in the children's escape from the gingerbread house. The Little Mermaid, with its eponymous female character having to become a landmark in Denver in the form of a statue. The original tale by Hans Christian Andersen is one of the more tragic of all stories in the entire fairy tale canon. Unlike more child-friendly versions in which the Little Mermaid chases and finds her happiness, in the original Mermaid never succeeds in gaining the prince's love. However, unlike the darker and more cynical undertones revealed in other folklore, the original Little Mermaid tale shows rewards that come from self-sacrifice, as she, the mermaid, chooses to become sea foam rather than kill the man who has earned her unrequited love. Both heartbreaking and uplifting, The Little Mermaid is a complex exploration of the issues involving social class and doomed aspirations.
I heard the princess caught her riding a seahorse.
And there's even Puss in Boots, regarded as one of fiction's most lovable felines. Puss in Boots is more famous for his quick wit and boot-touting ways rather than for the folklore once he acted as the principal character. Rather than merely being an anthropomorphic cat with a vain penchant for leatherware, Puss is, in fact, a sly, crafty, and quick creature who, with his guile, his charm, and his resourcefulness, catapulted his master to fame and fortune and obtained him for princess bride, a castle, and innumerable riches so they could live in luxury for the rest of their lives. Despite having a light-hearted and somewhat optimistic approach to life, there is certain Machiavellian ruthlessness in the methods of this clever cat, and he seems to encourage the maximum that the ends justify the means, even if the results are rather unsavory.
In America, we call it cat in mucklucks.
Rapunzel, this German tale, has become the subject of much fascination and parody over the years, with the idiom Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair becoming all too memorable. The happy couple, however, had to endure many trials and tribulations than is initially apparent, for they were only reunited after Rapunzel had been cast out, pregnant and alone, into the wilderness by the irate witch, while the prince was blinded after falling from the tower and into the thorny brambles below. And there were even more cynical versions of the narrative. In these, a pregnant Rapunzel is abandoned and forgotten by the prince who never had any intention of marrying her. Presumably, this version was intended as a cautionary tale about the dangers of seduction.
Also, he didn't want to put up with the cost of hair care.
True.
Yeah. He was doing an Adam trick, got her pregnant, and then didn't want her.
Yeah, and we're almost finished, but here's Sleeping Beauty, with a premise already bizarre and faintly disturbing itself. Many versions of Sleeping Beauties actually end happy, with a spell being broken by true love's kiss. However, Charles Perrault's version offers a bizarre addition, claiming that the prince's mother is an ogress with a tendency towards devouring little children. Perrault's Sleeping Beauty and her children narrowly escape being boiled and eaten thanks to the timely return of her husband and the kind of endeavors of a palace servant. Even so, the most disturbing recension of the story is the one in which the prince, captivated by Sleeping's Beauty's princess, assaults her while she sleeps. The princess awakes, giving birth to twins, but the prince has long gone.
Now that's a wham bam.
Oh,
No, thank you. Excuse me.
And the last one, Snow White, known as the first fairy tale that Disney chose to lavish its magic on, yada yada yada. The charm of Snow White has endured the memories of many children and adults alike, especially with catchy songs and the comic antics of the Seven Dwarfs. Bleaker variations tell a completely different story, however, with implications of necrophilia by the prince and the sexual degradation of poor Snow White at the hands of the seven dwarfs who enslave her. Other obscure versions even hint that Snow White's father, the king, is so enamored with his daughter's beauty that an unhealthy obsession takes hold, thus forcing the princess to flee from the castle and into the clutches of the dwarves.
well, I'll never look at fairy tales the same way again.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't know. I mean, your comment, and I just wrote it down and looked into it, and I was like, "That's interesting. That's interesting. Yep, I need to share this," and that's how it all came about.
Well, I ponder in the vein of storytelling, where back in this moment when we didn't have the convenience of lighting and whatnot, or radio or television or mobile devices, you would think that the storyteller would have, or even just the parents, they would pass down these stories orally, and then they would be in the nature of allegories for giving advice of good conduct and repercussions of poor choices. And so as they spread throughout Europe, they got changed a little, and eventually someone had to say, hey, let's write this down. But one of my favorites is Little Red Riding Hood, and its allegory of the druid, or of those older of ancient United Kingdom, that it's the story of the moon coming above the horizon, blood red, just as birth, where we come into existence through blood, as we come through our mothers. And then as the moon goes through its cycle across the sky, when it gets to its zenith, then there is the eclipse. And this goes into the wolf eating Little Red Riding Hood, because also the red moon is also the red cape, the redness, and eating Little Red and her escaping. But it's also the allegory of, as we go through our cycle, we have that opportunity where darkness, negativity will befall us, and we go through that challenge and come out of the darkness to be lit up again, as we are doing. Or was that last weekend? Trying to remember. Yeah, last weekend was the new moon. So as we're going through right now, going into that cycle of brightness, or our illumination, or positivity, love. And then as it sets, then you see it sets into the blood moon again,
Mm-hmm.
with the allegory of death and the cycle. And that's kind of the whole Little Red Riding Hood story also parallels that heavenly occurrence.
Yeah, I just happened to be have that article open, looking at it, and Little Red Riding Hood lore has so many reworkings that it's difficult to work out which is the earliest version. Though the most spurted expurge, I can't speak tonight. I'm sorry. The most expurgated version simply used the wolf as an allegory to warn against talking to strangers. Several darker accounts reveal a violent and destructive layer beneath the initial veneer. One version hints at the wolf at the grandmother being one and the same person. Another hints at Red Riding Hood graciously allowing the wolf to eat her grandmother before she kills the wolf, so as to be able to seize her grandmother's property. The most disturbing, however, is probably the version that hints at bestiality, in which Red Riding Hood uses her body to save herself from death, thus consummating her love with the wolf on the very sheets upon which her grandmother was killed. Yeah.
Silence, where it's like, wow. But it did remind me of a really horrible joke I heard.
Yeah, I mean, you earlier before we started like looking at this article, me and Luna we were just yarning, basically about how topic came about and spells, and we went through different kinds of wands and how a modern wand is also a pen, and with a pen you can definitely spell.
Well, even if you look deeper in the writing, it was not only the ink to paper, but it was the whole of you were bleeding into the paper. So on a very microcosm, you would be dipping the ink. And then also when you look into some of these magical books, the Goetias and such, you find allegations that these books are written on human skin or bound in human leather. So
isn't there a book out there, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head, the book that's bound in skin?
The Necronomicon, or the Book of the Dead?
Perhaps. I know.
Maybe. But there's stories out there abundantly about where they found these scrolls, and then they find out that the parchment or what it's written on is human skin, because that was one thing that they utilized. More times than not, it was skin of animals. That's what my ancestors also did. They had stories in like pictography that were drawn onto human skins, because it was difficult. There was allegedly in the Smithsonian, there were huge copper scrolls that were taken out in the huge communities of the Anishinaabe territory. And on these copper scrolls were all these pictographs that would tell stories of our history and where we came from, and prophecies or prophesizing our future. And the teachers or the storytellers would take time, and then they would copy these images onto birch bark scrolls or on animal hides and use them for telling stories as they continue to spread out throughout Anishinaabe territory.
Cool. So hey Donnie, I just dropped the link if you want to jump in and join us. It's up to you. Well, yeah, and then I was headed to work a couple of mornings ago, and I thought the whole wand and it just seems like it's popular in today's culture. And then what does a wand do? It enchants. And we've got all these devices that are enchanting us, and it's like a massive spell right now. And it's like
Well, depending on who's casting the spell also, because
this
one
is
of
true.
the biggest utility of a wand is for an individual to focus their energy, their manipulation of power. You know, as you hear many times in the movies, you know, like example, Dorothy and her ruby slippers, where she had the power in her the whole time. And that's the same. We have this ability to manipulate energy fields, and sometimes we're not able to focus it, and so we need a tool to help focus that, and that is the benefit of the wand. One of my favorite stories about the wand is about long ago in yesteryear, when the wizards, the sorcerers, the witches, the magi, when they would use these tools to cast their spells, their illusions, their prestidigitation, their magic with a C, their magic with a K, and everything in between. They would utilize this tool, a magic wand, where they would go out into the forest, out into the woods, and they would get the branch of particular trees. And the most common tree to utilize for a magic wand was from the holly tree. And they would take the holly wood and use it to fabricate a magic wand so they can weave their illusions, their magic, their lies, their spells. Because when it comes to, and I apologize to those that proclaim this, that, and the other thing, that the placebo effect, more times than not, works better than anybody complaining, pertaining, proclaiming to be a practitioner of this, that, and the other thing. And if the individual that is seeking out the healing can, and all be good, positive, if it occurs, to add to that placebo effect. But in the full spectrum of it, there are individuals that do have these powers, these talents, the ability to manipulate fields, energy, and the such. And power to them also. It's the end result, I guess, where the measure to the ruler shall be 12 inches, 10 centimeters.
Cool. So we have Donnie with us. Hey, Donnie.
G'day, Donnie. How you going, brother?
Oh, not too bad there. Yeah, I just want to ask the question here. What's the difference between a wand and a scepter?
No, I think the staffs and scepters connect to the ground. That's what I feel.
Well,
Don't they use wield the scepter as a magic, like a magic
Same.
wand, don't they? In the old days?
well, my first observation of difference, of course, is spelling.
Yeah.
But I do believe that there are like a staff or what's another? I keep thinking of Gandalf when they kept saying, "I told you to remove his staff." And but those staffs, from my belief perspective, is they utilize the earth, because when you can set, you know, if you have that staff and you set the staff against the earth and the energy that's within the earth can be drawn up through that connection, and then use it for that manipulation of field stuff. And the same, I would believe and agree with the scepter, that a scepter more times than not is something that is passed down from elitist to elitist. So I would agree that it would eventually contain all of the energy of focus that has been put within it. But I still would go with the old-fashioned, just plain simple stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, Donnie, in our culture, if you find a mob of us and you want to know which one's the spiritual people, they're the ones carrying the sticks.
Yes, that's right.
It's just natural for us to pick them up. And there's magic sticks. I had a little boy once. I said, "Come on, let's go looking for a magic stick with Aboriginal boy."
I mean, it's not just sticks. I mean, it's stones. There are other magical items too.
Yeah, it's true. And well, going back to the
Tell your
wine
story, Dave.
and the stone.
Tell your story, Dave. Werner. We're waiting, Luna.
Oh, my story. Oh, with the little boy. Yeah. So we're out there, and I said, "Come on, let's go and get a magic stick." And he goes, "Aunt, how do I know which ones are magic sticks?" I said, "You just know." And he's like, "Oh." So we're walking around, and he picks one up. He comes running back. He goes, "I found one! I found one! I found one!" He was really excited, and I looked at it. I went, "Yep, that's a magic stick." Then his uncle comes up, and he goes, "What you doing there, son?" He goes, "I'm finding magic sticks with Auntie Luna." And he goes, "How do you know they're a magic stick?" He goes, "You just do. Come on, I'll show you." It was really funny. But you just know there's something about it. And these that you find, them, you're not purposely made ones where you purposely go out to find a special tree and chop it down. I wouldn't do that because I'll be at the tree. I want your finger so I can make magic, and that's not really nice to do.
If I was to procure a wand, I would want it with rowan wood.
To go to a rowan wood or go to the forest where there's rowan wood trees and look around on the ground, and they'll give you one. So this is the difference, I think. Nature will give you these things, and the other way is they take them. They're the two different ways.
Well, there's a way
to see if there's any rowan trees in locally.
Well, we as Anishinaabe, when we go into the forest and we get the tools, for building what is necessary for existence, we have a protocol where we would go and offer something in order to show that equivalent exchange. When you would go and,
Yep.
same thing goes when you're harvesting foods. It's really interesting if you look back, when those that went and collected herbs and stuff, they had special knives that they used. You could find these solid gold knives and these solid silver knives and solid copper knives. And these individuals would use a certain knife for going and taking these trees, where it's like, okay, if you're going to use the root of this tree, you have to cut it with a gold sharp implement. And it's really interesting if you think about it. Take a piece of lettuce and rip it in half and then set it on the counter, and then take a piece of lettuce and cut it in half with a knife or a scissors, and watch how quickly that cut piece of lettuce will start wilting at the cut site.
so true, no. So it goes even deeper than that, and what you said has so much validity. If you use copper tools in your garden, you'll find that your soil is better and your plants grow better, because iron and steel actually have a reaction to the soil and the plants, obviously. Like Naso just said, with the lettuce, but it goes into the soil and the plants. If you use steel and iron, it'll destroy the ground and the plants. If you use copper tools, silver or gold, and copper's the cheaper version, obviously, it actually enhances the plants and the soil. So they've got us using, you go to the garden shop, try to get a decent tool made out of copper, you'll end up spending a lot of money. They're all metal and iron, because they know about this, and we're having farming problems, and we have for a long time, because we're using these metals on the soil, and it's killing the soil. And you're 100% right there, Nancy. The reason they use them gold and silver and that in respect to nature and to enhance it, not destroy it. So everyone rush out and get copper tools now for your garden. You can buy them, I've had a look, but you can only get
Oh, how I wish I had a green thumb.
What about a copper thumb? That turns green after a while.
You do have a point there.
Yeah. But
What's a good cleaner for copper to get rid of the green stuff?
Elbow grease.
in our culture, we never had tools, and if we did, though, it was a stick, right? And if you think about the older days tools, they were virtually wood and that tied together.
Oh, I bet you use the bones of
And that too, yes.
your animals. Because the thing that's really cool with my ancestors that I always get amazed about is that when they go hunting a deer or a moose or, a hoofed animal, that they can take the thigh bone and they strike it in a certain area. And when you strike it in this area of the bone, it will split in 3 separate pieces. Those 3 separate pieces are specifically utilized when you tan or process the hide of that animal.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. So as we're talking about these magic stones as well, Johnny can talk about magic stones.
Yeah, I mean, there's stones and the mythical Two-Eye Stone of Atlantis. There's all kinds of stones. Stones are magical too.
I feel magic when I'm stoned.
It enhances it. It's funny.
What's your favorite stone?
Me? Amethyst.
No, Donnie.
And watch Donnie be real classy and he'd be like a Mick Jagger.
Yeah. What's the old saying? A rolling stone gathers no moth. Yeah. I don't know which type of stone I would like. Never take much notice.
I enjoyed one time a friend of mine who travels around the country came over and brought me, well, didn't bring me, but wanted to share their stones that they found and collected around the country. And then they made this big deal about this one stone. And they were like, here, check it out. And they put it in my hand, and I held it in my hand. And I purposely got this really sad face on my mug. And then I held the stone up to my ear. And I just started like talking to the stone. And I said, I understand. I'm sorry. It took you 80 million years to get there, and you were all excited being there, and this person comes along and picks you up after all of this process. You went there to get there, specifically where you were, and this silly human picks you up and brings you around the country. I feel your pain. And then I gave it back to my friend.
That's funny.
Yep.
Well, I mean, this is the pondering. You know, when you find stones, we get that attraction of the stone. You know, can we ask that stone, that gem, that jewel, hey, is this okay?
Well,
You know,
yeah,
when I would go to, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, yes, you got to ask. With me, they tell me when I go into an area, if there's something there for me to pick up, they'll tell me there's something here for you to pick up. So I'll know that I'm allowed to come away with something. If I go into an area and they say don't touch anything or take anything away, I won't do that. And it pays to listen.
If I go into those rock shops or gem shops, I would go there and I would like hold my hand, you know, go around the shop and hold my hand out over the different stones and whatnot, and see if I get, you know, like a feeling, an inkling, you know, a very strong pull to, you know, certain stones. But that being said, I usually try to have on me spheres. I'm a hardcore advocate about spheres, and I have hundreds of spheres throughout my house, usually, not currently. But I would get a hematite, amethyst, rose quartz, clear quartz, black onyx. Those are my favorite.
Nice.
To have a cluster of.
Yeah, nice. I like them all.
Me
I
too.
still like tektite.
Actually, most of my favourite rocks are just ordinary rocks, you know. The ones I find, you know, the ones that I'm allowed to, like, gifted to me from nature, they're just normal rocks. There's nothing really special about them. I do have crystals, and I've got some beautiful crystals. I know there's one. I got a clear quartz crystal, Nate, and it's cracked inside, and it looks like a Native American person.
Oh, wow.
On the inside when you look at it. And to go with it, I have a what do they call it? I can't stuff the words. Turquoise egg. Kind of egg-shaped one. It goes with the Terminator. Well, I got some nice stuff. I get given some really nice stuff.
I have this healing stone where I was told where these healing stones come from is that you're supposed to go to the Great Lakes, on the shores of the Great Lakes, and do a ritual, a ceremony.
Yep.
And from that ceremony, the tide will take these almost perfectly rounded spheres, and they'll be rolled up during high tide. And when low tide comes, you'll find these spheres.
Wow. I'm
But
going to show you.
there's a specific process that you're supposed to do.
Finding them. Yeah, because when you take things off there, you've got to remember that the abundance will run out, and everyone can't do it. Otherwise, there'll be nothing left.
True.
I want to show you something that my dear friend Polly sent me. He made it. Talking about crystals and that.
Yeah.
It's nice, and it's wrapped in copper. And there's more to copper and all that than people think. Like in the fairy tales, like they reckon that giants don't like copper, some beings don't like silver. Oh, what is it? Werewolves don't like silver. You know what I mean? And there's must be something about these things So it pays to have a little bit of those coppers around, like, you know, those metals around, like copper and silver and stuff, if you can.
Ooh, what's that, Johnny?
Donnie's got some lovely stuff here.
Yeah, that's a flipper. Carved in a rock. See it?
Yep,
See the flipper?
yep,
That's sediment rock.
a fossil.
The
No.
fossil.
That's a turtle flipper.
I say it's a turtle.
Wow.
Cool.
I'll tell you one thing though, Luna. I don't agree with you. You see, because I don't like coppers at all. Me and coppers don't get along. You see, they're
Yeah,
always getting into my business, so
Hey,
I don't
Alan.
like them.
I can understand that.
Yankee.
I was wondering when Alan was going to come back.
You haven't seen Alan for a long time.
I've
Yeah.
been here the whole time. I'm just busy. See, there's many things to do instead of listening to you numbskulls. I ought to just take you all out, give you concrete shoes, and send you out with the fishes.
How does the Many Sins Man put up with you?
I have to give him $19.99 all the time. See, that ain't easy on a duckbill platypus's wage.
No, it's not, especially in Australian money.
I had to get a part-time gig as a flapper girl. Got my mother all upset with me, see, because she thinks now I'm a whore because I'm showing my dress above my petticoat.
Such a lovely fairy tale, Alan.
Squirrel slippers, see. Donnie, you got any more cool rocks?
Oh no, I'll have a look see.
The only rocks I have right now are green.
It ain't easy being green.
No.
No, especially for small too. Little and green. Little and green. I got
Come on,
rocks.
Ronnie. I want Donnie to have a lot of rocks because then tonight we can be rocking and rolling.
While we're waiting for Donnie to find a rock, when I said the rocks I like, the ones I find on the ground, like this one that looks like a little claw,
It does.
and that
It
black
looks like
stuff,
a what?
a claw,
It looks like a fossilized talon.
a claw. It's a claw, a talon or a claw, yeah. And the black stuff looks like blood, dried blood. So I find these things, and I'm allowed to bring them home, and they're kind of my favourite ones because they're straight out of nature, no monetary value, but they have value. I've also thought it might have been a cutting tool at one stage because that makes it.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
definitely see where that would be a good cutting tool.
yeah, so
Be a prehistoric can opener.
yeah, that's it. Oh, and I've got another thing here. I don't know if you can see it. It's a piece of crystal. What do they call it? Agate? Oh, I don't know. But they put a painting on it. So see that painting, but when you turn it around and see what actually is the paint, see that's the rock. I forget what's that called, Carl? Agate. Yeah, that's agate. And
Nice.
yeah, they've just put a little painting on there, and a little house and fence, and it just fits in like it was naturally made to be on that. So that's one of my favourite things. I got tons of rocks.
That is
They all
pretty
go out
sad.
of bed. And this is Smoky Quartz Raw Res. I like the rough stuff, raw stuff. What else have we got laying around here? Oh, the one that I got from Donnie's place.
Can you repeat that?
Rough stuff, raw stuff.
The whole sentence, ma'am.
I've got plenty of rocks. They're all in my head.
Yeah, that's where I get mine from. The fallout. Oh man, I got a big rock.
So that particular phrase, "dumber than a box of rocks," that not entirely true. If rocks are sentient and they're
Mhm.
rocks and they have vibration and frequency, rocks are pretty smart.
Yeah, they are, and they hold knowledge, so they can be programmed.
Yeah, I mean crystals.
Yeah, record keepers. And this is what, Donny, our mob used to use rocks with certain elements in them. Oh, that's nice. What's that? You're muted, mate. You're muted, Donny.
That's a call. I've got to get back online there. That's a call. It's also, what do they call that? Petrified wood.
Oh, I love it.
Finishing product. They've been trying to get flakes off. And when they get down to where they can't get any more off it, they throw it away. And they call it a call. That one there is a flake.
Are you saying like coral?
Like
Core.
an apple core,
See,
like an apple
Core?
Yeah.
Like
That's a flake.
hardcore?
Yeah, something like that, they say.
Okay.
And this one here,
Just asking for the silly Americans.
yeah, this is a blade, but it's broken. This was
Wesley Snipes?
yeah, Wesley Snipes, yeah, but he broke it. Yeah.
But
Would you?
Still a nice cutting tool.
Yeah, it would. It's Silkcrete. That's Silkcrete. This is a sort of a jasper type. What they call it, serpentine. And this one here.
We were yarning about serpents last night.
Yeah. And this one here. This is the petrified tree.
Yep, it looks real scared.
Yeah.
Out of your stones that can be utilized as cutting tools, do you tend to find yourself sharpening them so they're at least nearly as sharp as your butter knife?
Someone actually sharpened it in my butter knife there, nice, eh? And there's my butter knife.
That's a real butter knife.
Now that's a knife, a butter knife.
It's nice. But yeah, you got some pretty cool rocks there.
Yeah, would you believe my dog dug them up in my backyard?
I can.
Yeah. They got to go, when I leave here, they got to go back into the ground because what comes from country goes back to country.
Yeah, I've put rocks back. Some really beautiful ones I found, but they were time to go back. Hey, you've heard of soapstone? You like this, Jules?
I've always liked soapstone.
You little kid.
And I do.
He lost his ear.
If I was in your house right now, I would commandeer that.
Yeah, he's cute, eh? Cost one. Yeah, what heaps of stone. I've got one that looks like a piece of meat. I'll see if I can find it. Hang on.
I got some soapstone. A big old Anunnaki alien Egyptian soapstone.
Oh wow, that's nice. Show and tell now.
I'm too lazy to get up and go get other rocks. That's like I have that. And then it's a stone, but it's not soapstone. It's I'm going through some of my Egyptian stuff I have, and this is like
Nice.
this is this the symbol of fertility. But ironically, it looks like the scarab too. But I can't read the writing on the back of it. I'm a pleb. That's all the rocks I got within arm's reach. Like I said, I'm lazy tonight.
Oh, I got a ton here because I got them all over my house. My house is decorated with nature.
Yeah, I have amethyst on my nightstand.
Okay, so we've got some little crystals here. I've got an elephant.
I like that.
Yeah. I've got a bear. You can see that. Yeah, little bear. A frog. Oh, no, that's oh, this stuff's really nice. What's it called? I've got to remember the name of it. I used to know all the names of this stuff. It'll come back to me. Yes, I've got a little frog. Got a dolphin. Got another little bear.
Nice.
And a little eagle. All right, so here I got, this is tiger's eye, and it looks like a frog. I don't know if you can see it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a frog. And, you know, I reckon there was either a weapon or something happened that changed things into stone, and some stones that we find were actually something. And this is the stone that I got, looks like a piece of meat. I say it's a piece of giant. The flesh of the giant fell off. Got another one that looks like a squashed frog. Find a lot of them that look like petrified frogs. Find a lot of them. And then I got these. Johnny will recognise these. These things. Flakes. Cutters. These are from the river.
Yeah, those remind me of arrowheads.
Kinda, yeah, same kind of.
Blades.
Blades.
Leonard blades, they're called.
Yeah, this is the rock that they're made out of, because there's heaps down the river, because they used to go down and do all that. I'll take a video one day and show you. They actually moved some of these rocks. I wasn't happy because they're giant rocks, and you just tap them and they flake off. I don't know if that's glass or crystal. It's just a piece. These are just things like I find little. I
Ooh, I like that one.
Little pine cone.
I do like the pine cone.
Little dried roots. We've got some other stuff in here.
I feel like there's some kind of symbology with the pine cone.
Pine cone, the pineal gland. What have I got that you can see on camera? Because I've got some with markings on them, but you wouldn't see them on camera. And that's some ochre. Oh, the ochre here goes through processes. And then we got a river, from the top of the river to the bottom of the river, you can find the ochre in different processes. So, and it goes from hard to soft. And I collect them, so I'll just show you. Oh, shit.
Cool.
Processes of red ochre, and what you do is you go along and you're looking for the soft ones. So you test them out to find the soft ones. And that one's going soft, this one. Oh, we lost Donnie and they say.
Yeah.
Oh, is that showing the rocks? I wanted Donnie to see.
We did it. We bored them to death, so they left us.
Yeah, and there's some more cutters.
Here's Donnie.
Oh, we're back. There's another cutter thing, Donnie. Yeah, when you come up my way, Donnie, I'll take you down there. You could stay down there all day and make stuff. And I love weird rocks like this. I don't know why. They're slithers. And that's all I got on hand. Yep, that's all I got on hand in my little rock collection.
Cool.
I do have tons more, but that's all I got right now. All right. Mostly the stuff you use to make cutters with. All right, that's me. I'm done.
Yeah, I brought everything that I could think of, and I guess this is like a good time to start winding it down. I mean, I could yarn longer, but I have a hurricane remnants going over,
Yeah.
and luckily enough, a couple of hours ago, I had a message from one of my coworkers, and the power flickered on and off, and I'm going to be walking into chaos tomorrow morning because the computers were all down, and which means nothing was done. But so far, so good. I mean, Mace said he's on his way back. I mean, so far, so good, but I do have storms rolling over, and if I lose power, then you guys know that, storms ahead. But yeah, I mean, Nace is gonna come back, and I mean, if you guys want to take a quick break, I mean, I can't think of anything else I can say here about wands and spells, because everything that I can tie into is not acceptable on this platform.
Yeah, because I was going to say that if you look in everyday life, like the Queen has a scepter, and you look at churches and they've got things, and they use certain metals and certain stones. It's the same.
Well, okay, yeah, and like we talked about last night, the scepter, the serpent and the scepter, that is the symbol of medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And the
That's
two
right.
snakes.
The snakes, yeah, the two snakes.
The two snake represents the DNA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I was saying, I mean, Nace said he's going to be coming back, and I don't know about you guys, but I could use another cup of coffee. And I mean, if you guys want to take a break, or if you want to just keep rolling,
I might take a break.
Yeah, that sounds like something we
I'm
can
going to ask you, Jules.
Yeah.
How are you coping with that Hurricane Ian?
I'm not too far. I'm far from it. I mean, it made its second landfall in South Carolina, and I'm above North Carolina. So it's just a lot of heavy rains.
Yeah, I've been in a cyclone before, and all you use is heavy rain and wind.
Yeah, I've been in. Oh, let's see. Cannabis Resolution just posted in chat. Sorry, I was distracted by his comment. But I've been in a couple of hurricanes.
Yeah.
I went through 4 of them back to back a few years ago when I was living in Florida.
Yeah, well, we call them cyclones down here.
Yeah, you know, I believe they're a spirit, and they have an energy of their own. Sometimes there are a couple of spirits together, and because they change, they can move. I've watched them; they can move around, and then at any second they change directions. They're a being. We got the Willy Willy Man. Hey,
Yeah.
John, he's a being. We call them. Have a name for them, and they're beings, and they're men's and women's, and yeah. And if you're nice to them, they'll move out the way. Get out there, Jules. Get out there and go, hi. Are you going that way, are you?
I mean, there were the whole like diving into the pirates, looking at that. There was they used to Besmara was the queen of pirates, and they used to pray to her when they wanted death. When the storms were so bad, they would seek her, and they would either live and become devoted to her like in a religious way, or 9 times out of 10 it was almost they called on her because they knew they were going to die.
Well, we got that story about the red-headed, large red-headed giant people, and the way they got here, they left their mum on the shore, and they were going wherever they come from because they came here to fix their boat. And when she was looking for food, and she was up on a bit of a cliff, and she saw the ship starting to sail away, and realised that they were going to leave her here, and she got angry and called a storm, and the storm wrecked the ship, and then they got stuck here for good. So obviously she was, yeah, she could talk to the storms. And
Yeah, scorn of a woman.
Scorn of a woman, yeah. Well, I noticed that about women. We have better intuition and extra magic, and I think it's just because we're carers and we have to care so much for others. We've kind of got a little bit extra.
True, but I kind of think, and maybe this is just me and my train of thought, but I've always felt that women were more inward focusing. They don't they would rather inflict pain on themselves instead of hurt somebody else.
Yeah.
They're more inward, whereas like, and I hate using relationships as a comparison, but in a relationship, man and woman, if the woman is the one who is more of the aggressor, she's not likely to scorn, hit, or anything. Her whatever she does, it'll just be like mind blowing because nobody expected it. Because women tend to think inwardly, whereas a man, I mean, that's the physical abuse. It's more because it's and kind of like, I hesitate when I say release, but I feel like that it's the release that we get as women, but we often don't feel it because we're internal thinking. We're not necessarily forward thinking. And again, that's just me. I mean, I'm not going to say that every woman thinks like that.
Yeah. And if we have to go over the line,
all of, I mean, as sinister as it sounds, like the women who have their children with them when they're fleeing danger, I mean, she's not going to just kill herself. She's going to take the children with her. So it's like, oh, drive the car off the cliff with all the kids. I mean, it's that's why I say it's sinister, because I mean, you're thinking so much of yourself and your children being yours. You're not actually thinking about them. You're just completely self-absorbed in that moment internally. If that makes sense.
No, I know what you're saying. But to get to that place, what you were saying, that's a bad journey road, that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, women, if we have to do things that we're not made to do and we can do them, it doesn't work out well because we're 10 times more vicious, I reckon. But like the animal, you go out in the forest, or the jungle, or the bush, whatever you want to say. Not so much here because we haven't got any animals.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, things like lions and bears and all that, right? The mother bear, the mother lion can be all simply fine one day, but you put babies in the picture, she's changed. She's thinking about, you don't come in this area, I'll eat you, protecting her babies, and she's way more vicious than a male or a normal day. without children.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. Yeah. Anyway, that's why we don't go to war. If we went to war, everything would get annihilated. We go, no, we're going to punish everybody for being so stupid.
Oh, how that hits home.
Because we don't want that. We know what nurturing is.
Yeah.
And that's why we got extra stuff, because we do that. So, and I was looking at witches, and actually before we went on the show, there's a new Hocus Pocus movie. If you remember from that when you were younger, my kids watched it, and it's always the women that are the witches. That's because we have that extra, because we need to look after people. Ah, Uncle Nate's back.
Yeah, Naysay is back.
What's he going to tell us?
Back.
I was muted. Sorry. Here I am again.
Okay. Here in Australia, muted means really, really drunk.
Yes, I've been doing some tequila shots. Secretly, I'm an alcoholic.
And there's them words again. Oh, that's what I wanted to say about spelling. Modern day version of spelling. And I mean not spelling as in ant, A-N-T, spelling as in a magic spell with these, the pens, the new ones. When you sign a contract, they have written a spell on that contract and you sign it. That's the new version. So you think about it, you think about those written things. And these days, they're not even written. You press a button, right? You agree to these terms.
Yeah, I mean, you do agree to these terms.
Yep. And I should put that finger up with that, hold it up like that. But yeah, terms and conditions and contracts. When my kids were younger, their school was relatively nice, and then as they got older, and they were asked to sign contracts, and I went off my head, because you don't ask a kid to sign a contract, because it's a magic spell, and it's like a binding spell. It's binding you into them terms and conditions, and you've signed it and agreed. But they'll have you believe, nah, that's not that, it's just a piece of paper with words on it. Well, you know what? If I had a piece of paper with words on it and it said something like, I bind you to these agreements by, and just state them.
Look at back in the day of what happened to individuals that didn't know how to read and write. All they needed was a witness of you putting a mark on a piece of paper, and that was binding enough.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they couldn't read what was on the piece of paper.
Yeah, binding spells.
A lot of shenanigans happen.
There is, and it's happening right now in front of your eyes.
Yep.
Every day. Sign the contract at work. Sign the terms and conditions, whatever. I'll try not to sign anything.
I think I'm just going to go get some Ben and Jerry's and cry.
Oh. It'll be all right. And like I said, we won't have to sign anything soon. Everything will be digital. All we've got to do is get out.
For the win.
Get out the
I want to get digital. I want to get digital.
It's bad enough that I've got this far. Hey, Donnie. 3 years ago, me and Donnie you wouldn't have found us anywhere online. And here we are.
Got that right.
Yeah. And the more surprising thing is that we actually understand how to use some of it.
Inch by inch, you cover a mile.
Yeah, the binding spell. You watch people next time they go to sign something, they'll be thinking, is this a binding spell? What am I doing?
Is it inappropriate to proclaim being tech-tarded?
No, because that's what we are. That's why we haven't got all the fancy music, and
that's why we have no music. We have no slides, nothing fancy. It's all
so slide over here and give me a moment. Your moves are so raw. What do you mean we have no music?
I was just starting to feel that groove there.
I've got to let you know You're one of my kind. Oh,
One okay. We were talking about that yesterday, the difference between people and the blood in us and stuff.
Yeah. I need
people
to-
are people, so why shouldn't we?
I need to drop you that link. So I found it's worth a good listen.
I need your loving. So I'm on a roll.
Yeah, I'm thinking about pens now because I'm thinking, wow, because I like calligraphy, and you get glass pens and they're just pieces of glass with a swirl around them, and you dip them in the ink, and the swirl actually holds the ink.
How about the old quill?
Yeah, and the quill, yeah.
And an ink well.
Jules is holding up a calligraphy pen now. Yeah, the ink
Yeah,
well.
it's good old-fashioned fountain pen.
Yep.
And then there used to be a whole stigmata on whether the ink was black or blue. While I was in the military, you could only use black ink.
I only like black ink. For some reason, I've always just used black ink.
That's because you're a colorist.
Donnie's got a
Donnie's
quill. Yep. Oh, that's beautiful, Donnie. I got one of them feathers. It's not a quill, but it's just hanging on the wall.
That's the quill from his hat. Don't let him fool you.
No, it's a pen. It's got a pen in. It's a pen in.
Yep. Can see it.
That's nice. I mean, that would be tacking down when you go somewhere and you see like the pen to keep the pen. They like tape like a plastic spoon to it so nobody loses the pen.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I was thinking about ink because I used to get the ink from octopus, but before that,
yeah, you can get ink from squid.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll show you guys something. Chat amongst yourselves. I'll be right back. I got something. I gotta.
I hope they don't take ink.
I gotta dig.
But before
SpongeBob, please protect me if they take my ink.
And we know magic people use blood. Bad magic people use blood.
Negative.
What did they use before ink? But no, say like.
We would take this, that, and the other thing and realize it made colors, and then we would take the color and draw it.
Yeah, because we had ochre, but we didn't have it fine like a writing on a paper. What did the Egyptians use on papyrus? They used some kind of dye. Yeah.
Yeah, they used like an ink. And that was interesting when the lead got involved.
Oh, yeah, the lead pencil.
I can answer that question. The color of squid ink, the color of octopi ink is brown.
Oh, is that an ink picture? Wow. It's just
this is so old.
How old is it?
Let's see. What was the year when I was in the 11th grade?
1969.
Yeah, so it was marine biology. We were dissecting a squid. And that the ink sac from the squid, and ironically enough, there is a piece inside of the squid called the quill. So
it would have been
the quill and the ink, and I just made a doodle. And I don't know why I was compelled to save it, but I did. And the answer is it's brown.
What would have been a lot more clever if you said that you were dissecting the arms of a squid.
Because they got so many arms. Actually, I'm glad you showed me that.
Wouldn't it be tentacles? Because technically they don't have arms.
Phalanges.
I'm glad you showed me that, Jules, because looking at old writings when I do research and stuff, I've noticed that the proper old ones are brown on the parchment paper. They're brown. And I thought it was because the ink had faded, but it isn't. It's because they use real ink from an animal and it's brown. So when they show you a document and say it's from this year in the past, if it's not written in brown stuff, it wasn't made then because they didn't have it. They used that.
Oh, they even go further than that, where they can just scrape. They can scrape and analyze it, but then you get into the whole argument of carbon dating and dating in general.
Yeah, just look, if it's brown writing, you know it's real rigid. Thank you. Now the things you learn, I love learning something every single day, small or big.
The
Yeah,
pen
sure.
is mightier than the sword.
Yeah, it is now because you got binding skills.
True.
The sword
Well,
will
and
set
you need
free.
it in triplicate.
Yeah, the sword will set you free because your spirit's left your body and you're free, and the pen will bind you. That's what it seems like.
So don't sign the bottom line with Beelzebub.
And something else about signing papers. Often that line where they go sign on that line, that dotted line, it's not a dotted line. Get a magnifying glass. It's usually very, very fine print writing that looks like a line, and make sure it is a line before you sign it. Because if it's fine print writing, could be say anything, and you just sign it.
True.
And people think that the world we live in is so honest, like maybe yesterday. You've got all these magic wands running around. You can buy them in all shapes and forms now, any colour you want, made of plastic, any kind of thing.
I actually have a magic wand from the.
Sorry, I'm just looking up who made the first pen.
I think that was
You did
Joseph
not make the
Inkston.
first pen. I imagine the first. I know the first pens were ink and quill, but I've always had an appreciation and a fascination for space pens.
Yeah, it says pencil. So it says who made the first pencil. No, I didn't want that. The first ink pen. Maybe if I write down the proper words. Ink pen. First fountain pen. European reservoir models in
Isn't that David Fountain? The third.
I can't even pronounce it. Two fellas, Robert William Thomas and Petre Poenaro.
Oh, him. I heard he basked in the glory of pen making.
Another guy, a German inventor, Daniel Schwenter, a pen made from two quills.
Which was scary because people would be like, winter is coming.
1827 in France, issued the first patented on the fountain pen to a Parisian student, Romanian. That guy I just said. That's why he's important. He was a Parisian student, and he got the first patented fountain pen. What else we got?
Not to be confused with patent shoes.
What is the oldest ink known? The earliest ink from around 2500 BCE was black carbon ink. This was a suspension of carbon, water, and gum. Later, from around the 3rd century CE, brown iron gale ink was used. Brown iron gale ink. This was obtained from oak galls.
Also, if you think of blood, when blood dries, after a while it will turn black.
Yeah.
So imagine if you can add the proper uncoagulant to blood and let it putrefy to where it would get black.
Ooh, there you go. If you come across writings and they're not brown and they're black, you know they were written in blood if they were from a certain date after.
I would not be surprised.
No, it wouldn't surprise me either. Oh, yeah, here's another one. This is the Chinese. Because you got what I realise every country, every nation, like discovered the same things, just a different way depending on what they had in their land. Chinese knew about ink in the 23rd century BC. They made, well, then I asked who was the first one and they sold me someone else. Now they're telling me this guy's the first one. Okay. So they made ink in 23rd century BC. They made plant, animal and mineral inks and used it for painting on silk and paper. The best ink they used was made from pine sap, made from trees that were between 50 and 100 years old.
That is some beautiful procedures when you see the Asian art of writing the, what are they called? Cryptographs? You ever see that incredible, you know, how they have like these huge temples of writers?
Yep. What's in writing called? I know what you're talking about. And they do them big letters with the paintbrush.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? It's an art. It has a name. I don't know what it is. I'm short for names today. I think because
You're always short.
Oh, no, it's inevitable. It's inevitable.
So, Donnie, are you allowed as an Indigenous person of Australia to utilize writing utensils?
What did you say there, Naze?
I was wondering, when you're busy stroking the keys on your magic board, do you check the spelling that you're doing for entering and opening up certain files?
You mean that stupid bloody spell check thing?
No, I'm basically wondering if you got a virus in your hard drive.
Virus? Yeah, the only virus that it gets is when I thump it.
The best tool when it comes to a computer is the good hammer.
Or a 12 gauge.
Don't touch this. Hammer time.
Even the other day, I felt like smashing the computer. I'm looking at it and I just want to smash you, and then thought, well, that's going to be counterproductive.
I shot one.
You shot a computer?
Yeah,
computer lives matter.
It didn't do what I was asking it to do, and then it bright sunshine, so I stuck it on a gate post and let drive with bow barrels.
That would have been fun.
Yeah.
So what else have you shot, Donnie? I hope your neighbours are nice to you. Oh, dear.
I wish I kept that letter. I actually wrote a letter. I didn't have a pen or a pencil, so I used a 22 bullet.
How did you do that?
Well, you could hold a 22 bullet, you could actually write with it.
Oh, is that because it's got a lead tip?
Yeah, lead tip.
Ah.
I can't remember who was writing the letter to.
I'll give you a letter. L. Today's show is brought to you by the letter L.
Is that a lunatic or loose cannon or something like that?
Give him a prize. He got the magic word. Remember Groucho Marx? Anybody here old enough to remember Groucho Marx?
No.
Or is that back in the day when they didn't allow TVs in Australia?
I think the first TV came out in 1956 or 58. Yeah, I can't remember when it did.
Just because the TVs came out at that time doesn't mean we actually had one.
A lot of places in Australia didn't even have power.
Yeah, I think that's right.
It's because they took it from all the Aborigines.
I did not.
Imagine the spell being cast by Hollywood
Yeah, I do with a fun.
through television. Entertainment. Meant. Detain. Enter.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm digging my drugs because I'm a druggie and the VA is my dealer. And I just can't get that pill out of my tin, man. Oil. Oil.
Yeah, TV has been casted by Hollywood
Yep.
spell. Yeah. Yeah, they reckon the music is too, that underneath that beautiful music you hear, mainstream music, is actually a spell underneath it.
I can see.
Enter
I
the
mean,
sand.
look back to Tavistock.
Yep.
Enter
Well,
the sand.
even if you're going back to the computer, I'm going to do a shameless plug of Rolling the Number 4 US YouTube. But in there's a documentary called America Under Siege. And about halfway through the documentary, they show about utilizing a pattern of pixelation to implant messages to your subconscious through a video screen. And this documentary was put out in the early 90s, about 93. Is that when William Jefferson Clinton, didn't he become president? Like 93, 94?
I believe so. Or was it 92? 92, 94?
Oh, yeah. We should do a show about presidents sometime.
We could.
We don't have them.
I would definitely learn a lot because I slept through
American
that.
presidents.
Yeah, we don't have American presidents.
I don't know all the presidents.
We have prime ministers.
And I'm sure they have their wizards and their sorcerers and their magi.
Yeah.
Helping them with their spells and illusions.
Yeah.
And some of them even carry scepters.
Yeah.
God save the band Queen.
Oh, yeah.
Mama just killed a man.
Well, in that case, Mama just killed the man.
Yeah, I can't figure out how come they got Charles because he's too old.
He who shall not be named.
He is not liked.
Yeah, we've got interesting times coming up.
The illusion of time is real because we continue to solidify it.
That's right.
And if you don't believe me, where were you at 8 p.m. when this stream started?
True.
I was nowhere because it wasn't 8 p.m.
Did you guys bring up the KBS Discord or drop a link?
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean, I didn't because, I mean, there's only 2 people in here right now, and for the longest, and the 2 people are you, well, I shouldn't say you, Cannabis Resolution, and Joe.
Yay, Joe.
Joe's our resident.
Joe's been here with us all night.
She's our favorite fan
Yeah,
because she's fantastic.
that's right.
Joe's awesome.
Plus, I pay her.
You asked her a
I pay
question.
her $1.75 every time she watches the show.
What was that you said, Donnie?
Checks in
Sorry.
the mail, Joe.
Oh, I just wanted to ask her a question there one day about a little town up there in Alaska. I think they call it something Lock. It was abandoned back in the 50s. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a town called Dreadlock that a bunch of Rastafari said, "Hey, let's go to Alaska and live," and they got there till the fall, and then they're like, "Man, we be out of here." That was clever. I'm going to pat myself on the back for that quick little Dreadlock Rastafari joke.
We'll pay you that one, they say. 1999.
Are you saying patent as in leather? Patent leather?
Do they even still make patent leather?
I don't know, but Donnie, are you right-handed or left-handed?
I'm a lefty.
Isn't that an interesting occurrence back in the day in school when they would try to force? I remember them forcing me to be right-handed, which is funny because my brother was left-handed, and they couldn't force him to be right-handed, but I was ambidextrous.
Yeah, they tried it on me, but I launched a chair at them.
With your left hand?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I use both hands. I dominantly use my right, but I can use both, and I make sure I exercise my left hand.
I can use both, but I typically write with my right hand because that's what I was taught to write with.
Like when I brush my teeth and my hair and that, I make sure I use my left hand. And when I put things away, I use both hands. Just make a conscious decision to not to forget my poor left hand and make the other side of my brain lazy.
Oh, I have a horrible miracle worker joke.
Well, we're asking for it.
No.
Yeah.
I had to drag it on a long time because the urge was overwhelming, and I almost did the Helen Keller joke. But as most people know, I did so many Helen Keller jokes. My karma is that I'm blind now. So be careful who you make fun of.
Yeah, that's true. That's what I mean. Like,
because the ghost of that bitch is intolerable.
See, I reckon wishes and spells are kind of the same, except a spell is well thought out and a wish just comes off the top of your head, and that's why you got to be careful what you wish for.
I'm a copy.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference where you are. Some blue fairy may come and tap you.
Your dreams come true.
Sorry, it's kind of hard to sing with a mouthful of moon cheese. My apologies.
I thought you were going to say moonshine.
I've never had moonshine.
No, right.
Bad metho.
Shine on.
Harvest moon.
Up in the sky.
Next song wax off.
Daniel's son. Donnie's son. Donnie's sun rising in the east, setting in the west. Paint the
Yes,
fence.
Sensei.
Paint the fence. Hi. Paint the fence. Ho.
Never sweep the leg.
So anything else about magic and wands and rocks and fairies and fae?
Well,
And
I mean, look at all these movies that we're making reference to, proof in case that it's enchantment.
Mhm.
entertainment,
Yeah.
the
No, I
Hollywood
can't think of anything.
stars. When you worship Hollywood stars, makes no difference where you are. Disney capturing the imagination.
And put it in a
Imagine
bottle
that.
on a shelf.
I know the words to it. They just got to come back to me. If your heart is in your dream, no request is too extreme. Anything your heart desires will come to you.
It's a magic spell. That's what you just said. It's a magic spell.
No, so I can't think of anything else to bring to this soiree tonight.
Yep, and we
I definitely have learned some things about fairy tales, folk tales, fables, magic wands, and stuff like that.
learned. I was shocked. I truly haven't heard those versions of fairy tales, and it shocked me. And at my age, not much shocks me.
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised. It's a reoccurring theme that we think about something and we look into it and we discover this rich history that's buried and hidden.
Yeah.
So
And
I really wasn't surprised.
over again.
The views and opinions of today's topics are solely of the individual whose pie hole they came forth from. And do not believe that we at any moment think poorly of any fairies that are abundantly around.
And we are not going to go out and steal their tails.
Every time a bell would ring, every time a bell would ring, an angel would get its wings because they rip them off fairies.
No, say stop ripping them wings off.
Turn the page.
Oop, Tinkerbell says turn the page.
Well, I had fun and I did learn lots. And
Yeah, it was good. It's always good mingling with you guys.
next
I
time I
had a
hear
blast.
I'll be leaning over and going, that's not the correct story. Get your story right. And they'll go, what do you mean? I'll go, here's the real story. And they'll run away going, ah!
They're like, why'd you tell me that? I'm scared now.
Isn't that the intention?
Nothing to learn here. Go back to your regularly scheduled programming.
This was all for entertainment purposes only.
Also, please be careful in Luna's kitchen because Carl lost a bunch of rocks, as he stated earlier, of them falling out of his ear holes.
Watch out for Donnie's butter knife.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost as sharp as his wit.
Don't let Donnie butter you up. You'll be in trouble.
Was the big old Donny time, is it?
Only
we're
for the
sharing it
next
around,
precious
brother.
moment.
We're sharing it around and can't be us all the time.
So thank you, you beautiful miracles, for enjoying these precious moments with me. I hope we can only see a brand new reality next Friday. Maybe. I will see before you see. Third eye blind.
Yeah, next weekend we got some unusual pictures to show you.
Yeah. Next weekend is Luna's house.
Yeah, and a bit of a reading out of an old book that was well, I don't know how to describe it, but when you hear it, it's like, why don't they bring it back now? So,
And I'm going to badger Nano Girl and see if I can force her to join us.
Oh, that'd be nice. That'd
No
be nice.
promises, but we'll see
No,
what
no, she's a
happens.
very busy lady. I understand that, but it would be lovely.
And I am going to apologize in advance
You got it
because
all.
I am going to start getting busy this October because of the campaign of me trying to be a politician.